Welcome one and all to another episode of Lens of Truth, a series breaking down all things Ocarina of Time. We'll be taking a detailed look at the story, dungeons, towns, minigames, game mechanics, and way more that Ocarina of Time has to offer, so if you're interested in seeing more after this video concludes, do consider subscribing to stay tuned. On our last episode, we covered Link's journey and motivation in leaving Kokiri Forest in search of the Princess of Hyrule. In today's episode, we'll be covering everything that happens within the castle walls through the Lens of Truth. So here we are in front of the castle gates. The guards won't let us in because we're just a kid with an apparent need to speak with the princess, so we're gonna have to find our own way through. Just beyond this corner by the gate, there are some vines coming down the side of a cliff face. Climbing up them, we've got a pretty good point of entry to begin our infiltration of Hyrule Castle. Moving onward, we can jump down off the top of this archway, or climb down the ladder if you're boring, move past a couple of well-placed guards in the castle grounds, and run straight through the yard to our next point of interest. I don't know how nearsighted these guards would have to be in order to miss this little kid running straight by them, but hey, we don't question the things that work in our favor. Climbing up next to this wall in order to bypass the guarded entryway, we can jump down into the moat to continue looking for our way into the castle. Thankfully, we do eventually find one. Unfortunately though, there's no good way to get there from here. The other thing of note in this little side area of the castle is this sleeping milkman. No doubt this is the father that girl in the market was talking about, and I guess now we have the answer as to why he never ended up coming back. No matter how hard we try, we're unable to wake him up and bring him back to his daughter, which is a little strange. I mean, how deep can one person really sleep? So, we have no way to get into the castle from here, and no way to wake up this girl's milkman father either. At this point, the only option we have is to get out of here the only way that we can. Running in front of the guards and having them kick us out. On our way out, having just been rejected by the very quest we've been set on in order to save this land from the looming presence of evil, we run into that market girl again. At the very least, we could tell her we know now what's happened to her father and what's taking him so long to come back, so we speak to her. She tells us that she suspected he'd fallen asleep somewhere on the castle grounds already, and in order to wake him up, she gives us this cuckoo egg that she's been incubating. Once this hatches, it'll be the perfect tool for the job. So, once again, we sneak in the exact same way through all of the guards in Hyrule Castle's grounds, and return to Mr. Milkman again with our plan ready to be hatched. We pull our little cuckoo friend out of our pocket, it screams its classic cuckoo scream, and finally, the man wakes up. He introduces himself to us as Talon, the Lon Lon Ranch owner, and he spouts some nonsense about how much of a mistake he's made napping so long at the castle like this. He sprints off hoping his daughter won't be too mad at him, and finally we have a decent chance at making it into the castle to find the princess. Keeping our attention on this little waterway that we spotted earlier, and using a little bit of creative thinking, we're able to push these milk boxes off of the ledge on top of one another, giving us just enough height to make the distance with a solid jump. And just like that, we're in. This venture into the castle isn't all just fun and games though. To follow up our hilariously simple stealth task of getting past the castle guards, this time we have a slightly more serious stealth mission. On our way to hopefully find the princess now that we are well and truly trespassing on royal family ground, we need to avoid all of the guards walking patrol in the inner walls. This section is still simple, but quite a bit of fun in the way that you can't simply walk a specific path to get past them all. You have to wait, sneak, and take your time as you work your way through this section, and there's even a piece where you walk above one of the guards on this beam with the option to sneak by closer to him if your pockets are hungry for a little extra rupees. There are a couple spots with multiple guards you'll need to navigate with finesse, but finally, we've made it through, and the princess is within our sight standing in her garden. Before we can talk to her though, there is a much more important matter at hand. Like these Mario paintings that we can spot through the window. It's such a fun little Easter egg they threw in here as a little celebration of the success of their Mario games on the N64, and I just really love it. I never knew these were here until one day a Did You Know Gaming episode enlightened me to the fact somewhere in my teen years, but more astute observers almost definitely came across this themselves, and I just have to think that experience felt surreal in the moment. Fun and games out of the way though, we have important duties to discuss with this princess. After some initial surprise by seeing a child she doesn't recognize inside the castle walls, she sees our fairy and asks if we're a child of the forest. Next, out of nowhere, she asks if us being from the forest and finding our way here means that we have the spiritual stone of the forest. Of course, this is what the Deku Tree meant for us to show to the princess, but how could she have known that a random boy she talked to for all of 30 seconds is the one holding the spiritual stone? Well, it turns out that Link isn't the only character to see premonitions of the future in his sleep. The princess tells us that she had a dream about some very dark clouds. Soon after, a beacon would shoot out of the forest, parting the dark clouds before taking the shape of a figure holding this sacred stone and being followed by a fairy. It's here that the princess finally introduces herself as Zelda, before immediately offering to spill the beans about the secret of the sacred realm, a secret that has been passed down by the royal family and kept only by them. Zelda definitely puts a lot of faith into these dreams she's having if she's willing to pass along a well-kept secret to a boy with a fairy she's only just met. Her story basically tells us that the Triforce, the divine relic holding the power of the gods within, was kept in the sacred realm, and that access to that realm is hidden somewhere within Hyrule, the Temple of Time. This was done in order to protect the world from the power of the Triforce, as should it get into the wrong hands, the world would be plunged into darkness. She goes on to tell us that in order to enter the sacred realm through the Temple of Time, you need to open the Door of Time with the collection of the 3 spiritual stones, as well as the royal family keepsake, the Ocarina of Time. One final thing she decides to tell us is that the reason she was even out here in the first place was to spy on a man having counsel with the king. This man is who she believes to have been symbolized by the dark clouds in her prophetic dreams, and asks if we'd like to take a look. And once we do, we can confirm her suspicions, because the man that we see through the window is the very same menacing and brutally handsome man that we saw in our dream at the start of this game. She tells us his name is Ganondorf, the leader of the Gerudos in the desert, and everything is suddenly checking out between our own dreams and everything the Great Deku Tree told us earlier. Man from the desert, evil intent, tall, dark, and handsome. Yeah. It's all coming together. Zelda tried telling her father, the king, about her dreams and what she believed them to mean, but he didn't believe it to be prophecy. As of right now, only Link and Zelda know what's going on, and what steps Link is gonna have to take in order to prevent the evil looming over the land. And those steps, of course, are for Link to collect the other 2 spiritual stones, while Zelda protects the Ocarina of Time in hopes that they'll be able to seek out the Triforce together and stop Ganondorf in his tracks. With that, she gives us a letter written and signed by her, giving us certain permissions. All we have to do if any guards try to stop us from achieving any of our goals is to show it to them, and they'll surely let us by. On our way out of the garden though, we're stopped by one more person. Not a guard this time necessarily, but Zelda's personal caretaker and bodyguard, Impa of the Sheikahs. Impa seems to believe in Zelda's foreboding dream, or at the very least she's willing to go along with it for Zelda's sake. So before she escorts us out, she follows what her role in the dream was, which was to teach the boy from the forest the melody of the royal family. Impa would play this song to Zelda as a lullaby in her younger years, and she tells us that there is a mysterious power hidden within these notes. Finally, we put Saria's wooden ocarina to use, and we play Zelda's lullaby. Surely this will come in handy in the next Lens of Truth upload. Impa escorts us out of the castle now and shows us the direction in which we're meant to go next. Death Mountain, home to the Gorons. At the foot of the mountain, we have Kakariko Village, the small village where Impa was raised, which we are urged to visit before just passing through. And with one final reminder that Zelda's lullaby will help to prove to anyone our connection with the royal family, Impa disappears with the flash of a Deku Nut, and we're left to embark on our new quest alone. This was a really fun episode for me, as I feel like all of these story episodes are going to be. I just love how all the puzzle pieces fit together between all the little bits and pieces of it that we've come across so far. We now know our allies, we know our threats, and we know the goals that we have moving forward to retain the peaceful air that Hyrule has known for as long as it's existed. In the next episode, we'll be covering Kakariko Village in its entirety, because there are some fun people, helpful items, and just maybe even a new melody that we'll be finding as we explore it, so stay tuned for the next episode of Lens of Truth if you're curious to see what's coming by subscribing to my channel and turning on the notifications. I put out videos just like this every single Friday, so trust me when I tell you that it's gonna be worth your time. If you want to see last week's episode or the entire playlist for this series, both will be popping up on screen now. As for me, that's my time. My name's Myloe, and I'm out.